Hello, everyone. I am back for real this time. I'm actually doing a class, which is something that if you were to ask me almost a year ago if I was ever going to do it again, I was going to be like, I would not have been able to answer definitively. And today I'm actually really excited to announce, but I'm so happy to have you guys here. Hi, everyone. I've missed you a lot. This class is going to be a little bit different. We've had a couple of changes to the way. So I'm going to start this off kind of with a little bit of a downer. It's just me now. WTG for a while just completely retired. It's just me handling the channel at this point with a couple of people that help me here and there to manage it. I wanted to step away and retire for a pretty decent while, like at least halfway, and I feel like that reflected a lot in my content. I'm not going to get into details, but I can definitely tell you that I was very unhappy with the way that WTG was being run. I was very unhappy with myself. I was very unhappy with the content that I was producing. It wasn't necessarily what I wanted to put out for you guys. And I decided that I was going to take a break, and I pretty much retired. I only have 7 subscribers. To the 7 of you that remain subscribed this entire time, I both love and hate you. I love you because I love the loyalty that you guys have, and it makes me tear up. I also hate you because of you fucks, I had to actually file for WTG on my taxes. I made just enough to get a 1099. So, thanks. I don't know if the sound alerts are up yet. So the stream is going to be kind of wonky. I still have to kind of work everything out. This is my first time or my second time booting it up pretty much since I retired. But we're going to do everything. As you can tell, we have a new icon. We're going to rebrand pretty soon. So we won't be WTG anymore. We will be Weese's Halig Tree, because I also will do some Soulsborne content. And I'm also going to discuss with you guys what the future of this channel is going to look like. And I really hope you guys stick with me. Number one thing... I've been retired for the longest, yeah. Number one thing, biggest thing in the world. You can definitely expect more content when rollback officially comes out. The completed rollback, because then you'll see me doing a lot more training content, a lot more sparring content. In the meantime, however, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to teach a lot of classes. So in the last year, I have been working really hard on exactly what it was I wanted to teach you, and I finally have an answer. I have a script that I'm very excited to share with you guys. It's going to get a little weird. It's going to get a little esoteric. It may even get a little personal, but I swear, if you guys stick with this, my goal is to teach you something that is not only applicable in DBFZ, but it's applicable in Street Fighter 6. It's applicable to any game that you guys want to play. And most importantly, it's applicable to life. You guys can actually apply this to conflict resolution. Like, my goal has always been to want to teach something that actually branches out beyond the scope and borders of this particular game. That said, this game will be the main medium in which I teach all of these concepts. So if you guys know me from DBFZ, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm not giving up DBFZ until DBFZ 2 comes out. This game will probably always be a mainstay. However, there are some concepts that I will teach that are going to come from other things. They will apply to DBFZ, and I will bridge that gap for you. But every now and again, I may boot up something like, for example, Elden Ring to kind of demonstrate these concepts in a way that is a little bit different from what you're used to, so that way you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about by comparison. But I'm pretty excited to go over all of this with you. Like, I'm actually really excited to be able to go over all of this with you. And I'm super happy to be here. We're also changing something. Another important change is that if you subscribe at any level, whether it's tier 1 or whatever, or tier 2, tier 3, it doesn't matter. Any level, you not only get access to the Discord, which is still running. I've been kind of keeping it up. But most importantly, you guys will be able to actually have access to training with me. You don't have to be a tier 2 anymore, and you don't have to keep your sub renewed. I probably shouldn't say that because I kind of would like the money and some compensation. But honestly, I'm just excited to teach you guys. So whatever you can afford, if you guys want to join us, please go ahead and come into the server. I'll be more than happy to train you. The only catch is that if you are a lower tier, you are subject to my schedule. So for example, like if I have a friend come over, like I'm going to prioritize my social life and my mental health. So I may not necessarily be as available as you guys may want me to be. I'm not gonna be as open, but I will be here. This is a tutorial stream. Yes, it is. This is going to be a stream that kind of a tutorial. It's more of a syllabus. I'll explain in a second. Just stick around. But yeah, if you guys subscribe, you guys can come in. And obviously, gratuity is appreciated. Full disclosure, I do have financial incentive to do this. This is my slow season. January through April is pretty much my slow season, as I am a photographer by trade. And I did unfortunately have to make an emergency purchase and purchase a brand new bike in order to be able to be mobile. I do not drive, which was a considerable down payment and hit my savings. So if you guys like what I teach here, and you guys, please only do this if you have the money to spare, consider donating. Any amount of gratuity is deeply appreciated. And it helps keep the channel going. And this time I actually intend to keep the channel going. So trust me on that. Okay, are you ready for Sparking Zero? Hopefully there are some combos that are fully functional and clear to master on it. I don't really do arena fighters, but I'll probably play it on stream if just because it'll be a lot of fun. So we'll see. I can give you some kind words. Ken WTG may have retired, but I kept it alive. I entered tournaments for fighters and did pretty well thanks to your masterclass. I've been trying to find the Discord again, but couldn't get a link. I apply your lessons to my tech and gameplay as well, as I appreciate everything you built. Wonderful. I didn't retire. I'm fully back, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I may not be as active as before, but I am definitely going to keep up. And here, let me go ahead and get you that access to that server. Let me get you that link. Excuse me, guys. I may be a little MIA. Another big update that's also going to change is the way we do YouTube videos. Because of that. Oh, yeah. That's okay. I appreciate it. Thank you for resubscribing. But yeah, no. So like, nightly DBOZ class. I've missed it here. Yeah. Don't worry. We're going back. I promise. I promise. Damn, I really wish I had Fuzzy here. If Fuzzy was here, they could get you that. Mace Gray, can you do me a favor? Before the stream ends, remind me, just because, like, OBS is being really weird and doesn't want to pop open your text box, so that way I can't, like, whisper to you, which is really annoying. So, if you can just do me a favor and remind me, I'll try to log in and try to send you that message at some point. Hopefully. As someone dealing with mental health issues, I can understand the struggles you're mainly dealing with, and it's hard for me. I've even had those issues I've had those issues during my sleep schedule. It's not an easy thing to feel, and we must stay strong. I 100% agree. And that actually brings me to the thing that I'm going to teach you. So one last thing before we actually get started properly. Last channel update. The last channel update is we are going to revive the YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel, we got rid of a lot of the older videos for various reasons. The main reason why I actually acquiesced to having it is because I no longer stand by the oh, thank you for the resubscription, or thank you for the subscription, or the resubscription, actually, I'm sorry. One of the things that I'm going to do differently this time is we're going to teach from the ground up. So basically, this is a clean slate, and I'm going to be teaching you a lot of the things that I really appreciate about this game. And hopefully it comes through in what I teach. And also I'm going to tone down a stream personality. You're going to get a lot more real me. It's Kyo. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, no, I didn't recognize the name. How's it going, man? Are you still in the Discord? Do you need an invite again? If you still have me on Discord, just DM me and I'll send you an invite. That'll be a lot easier. So, like, yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to work with you guys. And we will be having YouTube videos. They're going to be edited versions of these masterclasses. I am working and I'm collaborating with a special DBFZ YouTuber that you guys might know. Something's in the works, so the YouTube channel is just definitely not dead. So keep an eye out for it. You're going to get some videos starting fairly soon. However, are you guys ready to get started for the master? Oh shit! You guys ready to get started with the masterclass? Is everyone ready? And don't worry, I'll get you an invite, Kyo. 100%. All right. So if we're ready to get started, what are we teaching today? Today, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to what I call strategy. Now, that sounds fairly simple. Okay, you're probably going to teach me some tactics, you might be thinking, or you're going to teach me what to do in certain situations. Yes and no. What I mean by strategy, I don't mean it in the normal, typical sense of the word or the sense that you might be used to. This is important to keep in mind. I am using it basically the way it is described in the Book of Five Rings, written by Miyamoto Musashi. To quote Musashi, I'm going to teach you what I've spent a lot of time researching based on martial arts treaties written by him, as well as various other martial arts treaties that basically lay out concepts and disciplines that I fully intend to carry over into DBFZ. For those of you that don't know, I have a martial arts background. I used to really, really be into Kendo and Kenjutsu, and I recently started wanting to get back into it. I can no longer afford it. I don't have the money for the gear or for like the hakama and stuff like that. And also I can't find classes that are affordable, but nonetheless, that can't stop me. I love it way too much. And I found that Kenjutsu and a lot of its principles can carry over to DBFZ. I'm going to be teaching you strategy as laid out by one of the most prolific historical swordsmen of the 1500s, Miyamoto Musashi, who basically lived around the Sengoku period towards the end of the Warring States period, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He was undefeated in 60 duels, life and death duels, and he wrote the book Gori no Sho, or Book of Five Rings, pretty close to his death, about a year out before he died. And it has been one of the most influential texts that has come out of Japan. It is very, 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 very historically relevant. You will find, like, if you Google Book of Five Rings, you'll find, like, Book of Five Rings as applied to, like, business and stuff like that. And that's because strategy and the way we teach strategy is very broad. It's going to make sense, but if you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I will answer each one as we go, as much as I can. It may take me a little bit because I would like to finish the point that I'm making, but I will always go back and make sure that you guys are following along. And of course, if you guys get access to the Discord, please go ahead and just DM me, or you can ask me and I'll gladly explain it to you. Which, by the way, if you do join the Discord and whatnot, we do host special classes there. I am going to be a lot more active on the Discord, so you're going to get a lot more voice chats, a lot more discussions, a lot more VCs, a lot more private lessons, as well as lessons well ahead of the master classes. In fact, most of the stuff that I have been doing, I've actually come out of retirement for the last 2 months. I have just been in the Discord. And this is my return to Twitch, basically with a masterclass compiled by what I've been teaching there. So if you are in the Discord, a lot of this is going to be very familiar to you, at least for the first bit. Now, what is strategy? I think while we are appropriating the concept of strategy from the Gorin no Sho, it's not exactly going to be what you might think. It is not a game plan. I'm going to go over what it's not. But the thing is that it's complicated. So bear with me. Even though the definition may not strictly be anything that you might think, it will encompass shades of it. There are going to be elements of it, but I want you to think of strategy as a term to be very, 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 very broad. The way that I would suggest thinking about strategy is likening it to a way or a method. That's essentially what I mean. And basically, in this particular case, it's a way of overcoming obstacles and conflict. This can apply to DBFZ. It can apply to Kenjutsu. It can apply to hand-to-hand combat if you guys are MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, if you guys are doing any sort of like Wing Chun or anything like that. Or if you guys are playing chess, or hell, if you guys are carpenters, or you can apply this to your daily job. It doesn't matter. It's basically just a way of conflict resolution, essentially. And I'm going to teach you those methods through DBFZ as I understand them. Full disclosure, I am not a master. I am just like you guys. I am a fellow student. I will think of you guys as classmates. Yes, I'm probably a little bit ahead of you guys enough to be able to train the basics with you, but this is going to be a long haul, and I want you guys to think of each other as classmates. And while you are welcome to think of me as a teacher or as a sensei or whatever, or a master or anything like that, please assure you that while I do want to talk from a place of authority, because I do genuinely think that this is the single best method of playing Dragon Ball and doing anything, really, I am still a student. I'm not a master of it yet. I'm just training in it just like you guys, and maybe I'm a little bit ahead. That's it. A lot of people have surpassed me as training, and it shows how slower I've gotten in combat. Well, we'll fix that. So before we start talking in depth, I'm going to talk about a little bit about what strategy isn't. Number one, a strategy is not a game plan. The reason why is because a game plan is a preset plan or idea or goal or something that your team really wants to accomplish. This can be an element of strategy in DB of Z and the way that I'm discussing, but I don't want it to be confused. And the reason why, or the big difference why, is because a game plan is fixed. So, for example, what's the game plan of my team? The game plan of my team is to do as much damage as possible and build meter. Oop, missed it. And then bring in Adult Gohan, and then Adult Gohan finishes his own development. If I get my game plan, ideally, Vegeta would be 2-touched, Gohan would be leveled up, and I would have 18 and Goku in the back. And then I would essentially rotate my entire team between all three of them in order to build meter and keep them in a vortex of level ups as well as level ups and level 3 mix-ups. Blue Goku is on point because, and we will discuss this, he will make a lot more sense because Blue Goku is one of the sharpest points out there. Still, yes, and I'll explain why later. But that's essentially a game plan. All of that presupposes that my opponent gets 2-touched. So let's say I get this touch, right? Let's say I actually get what I want. We play a little neutral. And let's say I get the corner, I got what I wanted, and I get my Oki, but here, instead of getting hit, Vegeta reflects. So Vegeta reflects, now we're playing neutral a little bit. And then here, Vegeta takes the time, and now Raw tags in. If he Raw tags, I lose my ability to 2-touch, and now I have to essentially play neutral as Adult Gohan. Level 0. Now, a lot of people might think that this is terrible. Trust me, it isn't. But again, this will make more sense down the line. I'm only using this as an example. This is not a dogma. But basically, if that happens, now my game plan has completely changed. I have to think of something else. And if I try to force my game plan improperly on my opponent, I'm going to pay the consequences for it. I'm going to lose. Gohan's probably going to get bullied and steamrolled, especially because SSJ Vegeta is much stronger in neutral, I believe, than Adult Gohan level 0. So I have to find a way to bring Blue Coop back in. But again, this produces risks, and it really slows down my methodology. All of that because he reflected. That simple decision completely destroyed my 2-touch and completely destroyed my ability to my ability to enforce my game plan. But that's not strategy. In contrast, strategy is alive. I want you to think of strategy as a living, breathing entity. I want you to think of it almost like a fire. When two people fight each other, a fire is created. I'll explain more about what I mean by that later. But just like a fire, it must breathe. You cannot predict or control the shape of it. It is its own thing. And you have to be able to be comfortable with that and adapt to its changes in order to be successful and have any sort of consistency in it. If you are too fixed on a game plan, that is an opening that your opponents can exploit and actively weakens you over time. Another thing that strategy isn't is a dogma or a set of rules. So we're going to be learning through very specific techniques of transmission that I'm going to borrow from Kenjutsu, things that you guys might be familiar with if you've taken any sort of Japanese martial art like karate or anything like that. I will be teaching kata. That being said, while I will be teaching you a fundamental system or style, yes, these are not necessarily going to be hard rules. The reason why is because everyone's different. Everyone has different temperaments. Everyone has different physical capabilities. Everyone processes information differently. So I don't want you to think that you have to do things my way. I do think you should try them my way, learn them the way I'm teaching, and then adapt it once you fully understand. That's the caveat there. Fully understand what I'm teaching you. That's when you can begin adapting it for yourself. So that way you can make it work for you. Because even if you flawlessly do everything that WTG teaches you, or anything that I've showed you, or anything that you've learned from our previous videos in the past, There are limitations to them and they will not be universally applied. This is very, very, very important. They're not hard rules. Different interpretations are probably going to exist when I teach this stuff. And my only goal, as far as that's concerned, is to share my ideas to broaden your horizons and provide clarity and a semblance of structure for you guys. But I also want you to take this and run with it and make it your own. This is an invitation for you guys to properly and fully study. And think of it like you're being taught the basic principles of mathematics, where you'll be able to solve equations you've never encountered before, because what I'm teaching you is less like, this is what you do in this particular situation, and it's more of a logic that I want you to adopt to help solve problems and issues that you arise, even if I never get around to teaching them to you. Aren't there also a way that you can break out of combos in short of mainly initiating other short-time combos to keep up with openings and strategy as well? That I kind of... I don't necessarily know what you mean by break out of combos in a short instance. That might not have anything to do with DBFZ. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same game, but if it is DBFZ, there's no way to break a combo unless you're either dropping it because you misjudged hit stun decay or general execution error. So in that particular case, that's not good. You generally want to keep your combos as damaging as possible. So number 3, something that exists purely for the sake of practicality. Strategy. So what does that mean? So strategy, as I'm teaching it, is not just going to encompass the game mechanics and functions as a blueprint for victory, but it is a logic that you're going to use to overcome conflict. Because of that, it's going to largely rely on you and a lot of different factors about who you are. It's going to require a particular attitude. It's going to basically touch on your mental health. It's going to touch on how you manage stress and stuff like that. So it's going to look different for everybody. There are a lot of other dimensions beyond simply, this is plus, so I'm going to attack or something like that. It's going to be a little bit divorced from that. I really hope your strategy against Masters and Double works against Masters and Double Reflectors. It does, actually. It did before, but those are my favorite. I'm mainly asking because I use Super Saiyan Blue Goku and DBFC. With Blue Goku, you want to make your combos as damaging as possible. But I'm glad to see you're also a Blue Goku main. That makes me happy. All right. So these are not what strategy is. Like I said, it is a logic. It is something that you're basically going to adopt. I'm going to use DBFZ to teach it through you. I'm going to teach you the movements and stuff to do through DBFZ, as well as some basic concepts for you guys. So that way you guys are able to figure stuff out on your own. This is not going to be dogmatic. It's not a game plan. And more importantly, there are deeper applications beyond simply being effective at the game. It's also going to be universal. I'm going to reintroduce concepts that we've taught in the past, and we're going to study them in depth. So for example, tempo, timing. We're going to go over all of those things in a future masterclass like I did before. They're going to cover team building, and we're going to approach it from a very holistic viewpoint. In other words, we're going to see how it ties to every element of the game, not just offense, but defense, not just neutral, but also when you lose neutral. And it's also going to apply to things for example, it's also going to apply to things like your team building decisions and stuff like that. There are fellow Bluka here, indeed. I mainly try what I could in DBFC because a lot of the training in the game is interesting. Wonderful. I hope I can help you guys with that. So, with that being said, here's the curriculum that we're going to go through. I know this says a masterclass, but in reality, I want you guys to think of today's stream as a shorter one. It's going to be a primer on exactly what I expect to teach, so what you guys can essentially hope for going forward. I'm not going to teach anything new today, but we will go in depth, and I promise we will be thorough. And I am intent to follow through with you guys, so if you have any questions, anything like that, again, please don't hesitate to ask. So, when it comes to the curriculum, there are 3 dimensions to strategy, as I teach it, that I'm going to cover. These things are going to dictate exactly what we've been training and studying together. This is going to be very, very, very crucial for you guys. Bear in mind, I'm going to repeat this. I'm not a master. So when we study, even though I will be teaching you, we'll be learning together at some point. You may think of me as a teacher or a mentor or a guide or a coach or whatever you want if it's comfortable for you. But my goal is to teach you so you can become my study mates rather than my pupil or my alumni, essentially. So bear that in mind. Now, in order to adopt these aspects, it will take some adjustment. There will be an adjustment period. A lot of it will be unlearning what you have essentially built in the 3 years that you've been playing Dragon Ball. Or I'm sorry, in the 6 years that some of you have been playing Dragon Ball. Oh my god, 6 years. That's insane. Anyway. So, that being said, there will be an adjustment period. Please be patient with yourselves. It will take time. And some of this stuff might not necessarily be readily understood by you guys. That's okay. I'm going to basically work with you guys on an individual level if I can, in hopes that I can essentially make it as clear as possible. Some of the concepts may be tricky to grasp, and I may not explain it well, so don't hesitate to interrogate me and these concepts thoroughly until I find a way to properly explain it that makes sense to you. The biggest advice I can give before we begin is to develop what we call in Zen Buddhism a beginner's mind. Empty your cup and what you believe and think you know. Let your preconceived notions, ones that come from top players or even ones that I've given you in the past, let them rest. If you can't let them go, then we will do our best to interrogate them and examine them through a new lens of what we're learning. So that way, if we can't let go of those old concepts, maybe we can replace them with new, better ones. Or at the very least, refine them. The 3 dimensions, so basically the 3 aspects of strategy, as I'm going to teach it, there's going to be 3 domains. Number 1 is the technical. This is going to be the bulk of what I teach you. Or not necessarily the bulk, but this is going to be the bulk of the beginning. The technical, in this particular case, refers to mechanical or technical ability, meaning I'm going to teach you how to properly move, for example. So what to mechanically press to do certain things, certain movement patterns that you're going to want to specifically adopt in order to be able to pull it off. So these are going to be basically like little things like this, technical flourishes, as well as combos, execution, pressure, basically the stuff that actually requires you to push buttons. This is what I've mostly taught in the past. I will still be teaching this. I will still give you the stuff that you need to be able to do this. However, this one, this one comes with full disclosure. This is only a starting point. In order to train these, I'm going to basically give you guys kata and stuff to practice, but I'm also going to host training camps on my Discord if you guys join. There's going to be sparring with fellow students, so I'm going to have basically monitored sparring between you and other students here. Ideally on rollback, we're definitely going to do evaluations. I don't know if I'll do ring match evaluations on stream, but I will evaluate each and every one of you as we go, at least privately. If we want to do it on stream, we can. And once we get a bit more going, and once we get basically a bit more off the ground, I will be forming and teaching kata, like I mentioned before, such as in karate and kenjutsu, in order to demonstrate and illustrate principles that make it easy for you guys to perceive the purpose behind every single movement and decision that I teach in this game. Take nothing for granted and question even the most basic of basics. This is how we're going to improve the adaptability of this style. Or ryuha, essentially, if you want to get technical with it. Too long didn't read. This is the what of DBFZ. What can we do? What do we do? What is the best thing to do? What are we accomplishing in DBFZ? The next element is the actual strategic part, the application. This is the dimension that I'm going to spend probably the most time on. This is where you will begin to essentially learn when to do things, what timing to do things in. You have to already have a level of technical and mechanical proficiency before we can begin to apply this stuff, which is why I will be starting with the technical first. However, once we're past that, you're going to basically learn how to properly apply this, how to essentially win against those mashers, as you mentioned before, or what you need to do to kill those masters, how you can turn their strengths into a weakness. This will encompass not just strategic application, but also factor in you and your opponent, as well as your individual grades or abilities. So by grade, I mean the kind of person you are and the quality of fighter you are. This can even take into account even minute things such as physical and mental health, as they will inevitably affect your decision making. We're going to learn how to make better decisions. We're going to learn how to properly and effectively leverage essentially what we learned in the technical. We're going to learn what the best way to defeat our opponents is. Now, here's the thing. This is where the game, and I'm going to be completely honest, this is where the game becomes exceptionally, and I don't use this word lightly, exceptionally brutal. Because what we're going to do, and sometimes the best thing that we can do, is defeat your opponent in such a way that it can essentially really hurt people. When I did a lot of training, people always sort of bring in their baggage from daily life with them. And if you're not careful, I've learned that you can really, really, really hurt people, even through the game. I am not kidding and not exaggerating when I've mentioned that people who have fought my Bluku have actually ended up crying before. It is at a very emotionally brutal and emotionally draining thing, because at that point, it's less about the game and it's more about you and your ability to rise to challenges, the ability to deal with conflict, the ability to manage stress, the ability to overcome conflict. Are you the type of person to run away from it? Are you the type of person to go head first into it? Do you get tilted easily? This is where we really begin to examine ourselves as players and as people and overcome our own personal weaknesses, so that way we can become stronger both at the game and, if I'm lucky and I teach you guys well, in life. And it also brings us to the last stage. Because of that emotional brutality, I'm also going to teach the last dimension, which is the ethical dimension. This is where we teach the why. So we have what, when, and most importantly, the why. Why we do things. What we teach in strategy, especially in any competition, can be very dangerous. I've been training people for a few years now, and I've learned that competition, there's nothing quite like it that reveals what's inside of you. Like I mentioned just earlier, it reveals what's inside of you. It reveals how you handle conflict, and it can really, really cause you damage if you're not careful. It caused me damage just teaching it to you guys. This shit's no joke. It's mentally very, very, very stressful, because getting good at anything, even if it's something as silly as a fighting game, is really, 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 really difficult. And it takes a lot out of you. I mean, if you want an example of this, how many of you guys play Soulsborne? Or how many of you believe that, how many of you guys play Soulsborne, for example? Like, how many of you guys play Soulsborne games? And how many of us know somebody that doesn't want to play Soulsborne games because it's too stressful for them or because they think it's too hard? I'm bad at that. We all are. It's okay. But that's the thing, right? I played all of them. Excellent. But we all probably know somebody that hasn't played, or that refuses to play Elden Ring, or refuses to play Elden Ring, or refuses to play like Dark Souls or Sekiro or whatever, because the reputation of it's too hard and it will just stress them out. We all know someone like that. This basically means that we have to have and establish an ethical guideline. We have to establish an ethical guideline that I want to impress on you guys, so that way we can ground the strategy philosophically. In other words, I'm not teaching you so you can beat others. I'm not teaching you so you can bully people. And I'm not teaching you even how to win. Your victories are going to be the natural byproduct of your training and diligence. I'm definitely not going to teach you how to bully others and how to upset people. And I don't want you guys to get hot-headed and cocky and start challenging people from other communities and whatever and picking fights. That's not why I teach. The goal of this, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to that. Before, me and Star used to be very, very belligerent to anybody that disagreed with us. And the reason why is because we had this strategy where we would kind of like give a hot take that we knew most of the community would disagree with. I still stand by our takes, don't get me wrong, but we alienated a lot of them. We argued with top players because we had a lot of confidence in what we were teaching, but I don't think that's necessarily very effective for us anymore. I don't think that's effective for the future going forward. I'm going to lay out my arguments, and if somebody disagrees, we're just going to allow them to stay. I'm not going to worry about it. The worst I'll do is mute if I feel like the way they're going about it is distracting to the course, or if I have to constantly stop what I'm doing in order to correct them or to challenge them. I'm not going to do that anymore because I want to distance myself from the combative elements of this community. What I'm teaching you guys is more of a philosophy and how I want to approach this, which brings us to the kind of like the last part of today, which is I'm going to lay out a certain analogy for you guys. So, like I mentioned earlier, when two people fight each other in any kind of conflict, whether it be in DBOC, whether it be at work, or whether it be in your daily life, maybe you're fighting with your parents, maybe you're fighting with your significant other, maybe you're even fighting with yourselves. Conflict creates a spark. And that spark, depending on how much you feed that conflict, can become a fire. For instance, let's say you're living with your significant other. You ask them to do the dishes and make dinner. They didn't make the dishes and make dinner. They forgot. And let's say you're having a really bad day. That's a spark. You can already feel that tension, right? Maybe your mom talked to you in a way that you didn't really appreciate and you're really vulnerable. Or maybe something happened at work where you really needed your coworker to do something and they didn't, and now you have to stay a little bit extra. These little stresses are going to create a small spark. How we deal with this spark is very important, because eventually, if we're not careful and both people consistently feed this spark, you will build a fire. Sometimes that fire is built in. For example, in something like competition, like in DBZ, we are effectively already starting at the fire, because you're already competing with somebody who wants to win just as much as you do at the very least. You're already, dealing with mashers and people that play in a way that upset you. There is already a lot of stress in this particular situation. There is already a fire. How much you feed it, however, is going to be dependent on your strategy. What do I mean by that? If the fire grows too wild, you will no longer have any control over the fire. In other words, if you guys are really scrapping, like for example, if I go 100 here, right? Like right already, this is chaos already. This is chaos. And if I try to challenge like I'm doing, you can see my thing, or I'm just mashing, I don't have any control over this fire. This fire is way too chaotic, and I'm scared. So already, this is a problem. We've all had Dragon Ball matches that look like this, right? Just to be clear, I'm sure you guys have all gone on ranked and started dealing with this shit. But look what happens. Let me get Blueku in here. But look what happens if we start just simply being calm. Now, obviously, it's a bot. It's not a real person. I have a feeling she's going to counter. I have a feeling she's going to counter. Oh, she just DP'd. Okay. These bots are weird. Oops. Oof. Alright. Oh. There we go. So already, I'm not playing very cleanly at all. I am still pretty considerably rusty. But notice how we're already in a very different place. Like, we're already managing the situation very differently, where now we have an advantage. This right here is what I call dancing with the fire. You can do it with a bot, you can do it with the crazy crackheads on rank, you can do it with the best players in the world. It doesn't matter. This right here is just the basic application of strategy when you apply it ethically to your mindset. Learning how to control the fire, not get overwhelmed, being able to think through positions. See? Being able to control the fire, simplify positions like this, very, very impactful. God. Oh, never mind. Done. Notice how we took a chaotic situation. I missed when the tempo switched. Bro, that was traumatizing. I'm not gonna lie, I missed when the tempo switched. It's very subtle, so if you missed it, I wouldn't worry about it too much. However, you could see the difference in results, where earlier I was getting overwhelmed and I couldn't figure out what was happening. It was just complete and utter chaos, and then somehow, at some point, I got control over the situation, and the situation became rather easy. The chaos became controllable. What I teach you is essentially, to put it poetically, is I'm teaching you how to dance with the fire. I'm teaching you how to control the fire, how to dance with it, how to move with it, how to appreciate it, how to control it. So that way, even in the midst of intense competition, in the midst of your toughest battles, you can remain calm, dedicated, and focused, whether you're fighting on ranked or whether you're fighting in a crowd of 10,000 people in a major tournament. It's that simple. The goal, ideally, is that if you guys get very good with this, you will cultivate resilience in your daily life. And I hope that you can use what I teach you to overcome the troubles in your life, so that way you can actually pursue the kinds of futures that you guys want to build and be happy. That's the ultimate goal. I want to teach you guys not necessarily how to beat people, but how to use beating people in DBFZ to be happier people in general in life. It's principles that I have actually used to get myself out of a lot of mental health ruts. I'm still in the thick of it. I'm not exactly having the best of times the last few weeks, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. But it has helped me considerably, even just teaching this to you. And my ability to overcome these obstacles has actually given me an inner resilience to deal with the bullshit in my life, of which there is a lot. I won't lie to you. The deepest parts of strategy, the deepest parts of strategy basically come down to that. That's the ultimate point that I want to teach. And that's the ultimate goal of why we're here. So if you guys have stuck with me for the last 15 minutes, I know this has been a little bit of a shorter class than you might have been expecting. This is where we're going to start. And I'm going to start with the next week's masterclass. Might even do it I might even do it later this week. Who knows? It depends. If you guys subscribe, leave me donations. If you guys go on Twitter and retweet and share, give feedback, whatever you want to do to support the stream. If I get enough feedback, I will go ahead and teach it. I'll teach an early version in my VC, script it out, and then we'll go ahead and teach it next week. But next week, I will be teaching you the basic concepts that we're going to be working with. This will include things like Mai. This will be including things like tempo. This will be including things like these things you should be familiar with, but as well as new concepts such as beats, such as finer points of timing, how to properly build and strategize a team, how to analyze a team, how to analyze a character, things like that. We're going to do that all in one masterclass. It's going to be everything that you need. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and start it with strategy proper by learning kata and learning and strategizing basic movement patterns. In which case, when you do the kata, you guys will be able to see the through line of what I'm actually trying to teach. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you're excited about the new adventure that we're going to go on. I know this probably wasn't as long as you guys expected. I'll stay here for about 10 more minutes. If you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask. Do you guys have any questions? Anything that you want to know? And you can ask me about literally anything. It doesn't matter. There are no stupid questions, guys. I want you guys to ask and get comfortable with asking questions, developing questions, interrogating things. What will the kata look like? That's a fantastic question. So the kata, for example, I'll give you a demonstration. I'm going to show you what the kata looks like. However, I will not explain it in depth, so I don't want you guys to try it until next week. But I'm going to show you an example of the kata. which has been my favorite. I have 3 so far that I fully intend to teach you guys. This one is going to be very, very, very important. But the kata is going to look like prefixed movements. And each section of those movements and every tiny little circumstance that's presupposed will effectively have deep meaning and applications. For example, that's it. That's the first kata. I'll do it again. This is the first kata, done solo. Now, something that I like to do as well, to kind of demonstrate this, would be I will set a recording, and I will show you guys an example of why this kata is important, as well as a practical situation for this kata. Ooh, what happened there? So, what's happening here? It may not necessarily make a lot of sense to you guys, but this is essentially what the kata is going to be like. Discord link. This is essentially what the kata is going to be like here. Because I'm not going to get too deep into it. It's hard because I'm very excited about this. And I promise you, it's a lot deeper than it looks. But I'll explain this tidbit. One of the reasons why we do this particular movement and why I kept messing up the timing was because if I do anything else... I was supposed to be IED back. I can still IED back here if I time it perfectly. But if I mistime it, I get hit. But here, if I time it perfectly, I avoid my opponent. But if I don't time it perfectly... Oops, my bad. My god, why does he just faint? Why are we fainting, bro? Do the thing. Thank you. Bro. Thank you. I block. So if I IED back, right? If I IED back and mistime it, I can still avoid it. But if I mistime it, I get hit. If I time it very late here, I block. Safe. So the stages are 1, physical compatibility, contextual awareness, and 3, recognizing how context changes in situations. No. So the stages are going to be the actual physical mechanics of what we're doing. 2 is a pretty accurate way of talking about it. You can think of it as contextual awareness. I like to think of it as strategic awareness because it depends on your opponent, the timing. It's going to get really deep into the nitty-gritty, but for the sake of simplicity, I do think that the way you put it is proper. Number 3 is going to be the ethical applications of what we're teaching. For example, a lot of it's going to come down to controlling. Like a lot of it, when you talk about strategy, is going to come down to controlling behavior. Let me use an analogy in order to basically explain why I'm taking an ethical angle or a philosophical angle. Is because of let's talk about what kenjutsu is. Kenjutsu, no matter how you slice it, no pun intended. Okay, pun little intended, but no matter how you slice it, kenjutsu is fundamentally learning the mechanical application of murder. How do I, in the quickest, most efficient, and brutal way, murder this human being with a long, sharpened piece of metal? How do I get around their guard to cut their throat? How do I cut the inside of their leg? How do I cut that artery? How do I stab them? How do I cut their head? How do I slice them in half if I have to? How do I cut them from shoulder to waist? Things like that. These are real life or death techniques. Techniques that were basically taught with the expressed purpose of killing another human being. Now, kenjutsu, as it's taught today, because we're not running around with swords and whatever, is extremely mentally gratifying because you are learning effectively how to kill somebody, but you are also gaining strength through that without ever needing to actually harm anyone. And that's That's important. You have to learn an ethical system, because if you just teach somebody kenjutsu, especially competitive kenjutsu or something like kendo, with the intent of brutalizing your opponent, you can create a very violent person. Now, I don't think that same thing as a drastic example is going to apply to DBFZ, but we've all have seen certain top players. I'm not going to be belligerent and name names, but I'm sure you guys know exactly who I'm thinking about at this particular point in time. Their behavior is pretty disgusting, and the way they treat their fellow opponents and whatnot for a video game, frankly, is really disturbing. And the fact that we built a cult of personality around people who win when they're not even necessarily that good, if I'm being completely honest, that's a problem. I'm essentially not trying to raise another one of those players, because if you guys stick with this diligently, if you guys are strong enough, eventually, I don't know who you mean. Not going to name names, but you might have an idea. I'll just say that they're a very popular player right now. A very popular player. And I've seen the way that they behave on stream. I've seen the way that they talk about their fellow... there's too many high-profile players I know. It may necessarily have anything to... like, the way they treat other human beings at this video game for the sake of their own supremacy. That's something that I kind of want to... probably. It's something that I'm going to want to avoid. Eventually, if you guys stick with this enough, I do fully believe, perhaps arrogantly of me, I do fully believe that you guys will attain a very, very high level. I think you guys will be a lot stronger than most people will think. I think you guys are going to be I think you guys are going to be nasty. Some of you, if you have a competitive edge, may even start competing in tournaments if you haven't already. If you've already started competing in tournaments, you're likely going to start rising the ranks as you improve. I don't want you guys to do that and then become another one of these people that don't treat their opponents with dignity and respect. That's why there's an ethical concept. Essentially, with great power comes great responsibility. Just think of it like that. I want you guys not to be unhappy, and more importantly, not to bring unhappiness to others. There is a weight to what we do that I want you guys to acknowledge and think about. All right. It's super jump back, fast fall holding. Yes. That's the kata, or that's the template of the kata. Yes. However, there is a lot more here. And that will be more apparent in a couple of weeks when we get to it. All right. Do we have any other questions or anything that anybody wants to answer? Anything that I can help you guys understand a little bit better? Mada mada. I had a question about mindset, please. Almost. I just want to say we love you, bro. I love you guys too. Trust me. You guys are really, really cool. Will there be a stream schedule in the future? Yes. It's going to be hard for me to hold on to it because I have a social life now, which has been making that's what's been making the streams difficult, is that I actually have people that I want to go out with, and you know, I have a girl that I'm talking to on top of that. So like, you know, I'm trying to live my life. So who knows? But yes, I do intend to at least stream once or twice a week. Yeah. Well, I say I'm used to play this game offline because I knew how it would go when I played online, and I was absolutely right. Okay. I'm mainly here to support at times. I really appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. Ooh. Oh, wow. Somebody gave you a sub. That's so sweet. Nice. But what was your question about mindset, Gem? Once I started playing online, the anger in me sits off. Well, hopefully we'll address that. How should I prepare myself to be hurt? How should I prepare to... That is a fantastic question. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's a big question. The answer is going to be very deep. So what I'm going to tell you now is not going to be a satisfactory answer in the slightest. However, I do think it's going to encompass the kind of crux of what we're doing. But we're going to talk about this a lot more when we actually... we're going to talk about this a lot more in VC. What's up, Max? How should I prepare myself to be hurt? Biggest one is do not run from it. Biggest thing is maximum radical self-honesty. When you lose, do you get frustrated? When you lose, do you get hurt? Do you begin to doubt yourself? What's going on in you emotionally whenever things in the game don't go your way? The other thing is going to be empathy. Being able to... Now, you might be wondering, okay, do I have to turn off my empathy to hurt others? No. You need to have empathy. Because when you have empathy, you understand what your opponent's going to want to do, because you also understand that your opponent, regardless of how skilled they are not that different than you. The amount of times I have opened up or I have successfully won an interaction against a player that at the time was the best in the world or whatever, literally didn't come down to skill, but it came down to I thought of them as a human being. And I knew they would mash there because if I were in their position, I would probably mash there. It's that simple. But I do love that you're already thinking about this, because philosophically speaking, that is very, very, very important. You need to understand the type of person you're fighting as well. So, for example, understand that, especially if you plan on competition, if you start playing offline, you go to the biggest one. Like, let me tell you, I've talked to top players. Every single one of them has a story. Every single one of them has a story. Some of them are sad stories. Some of them are playing the game because it was the only outlet that they had. Some of them had to become as good as they got because they literally had no other prospects. They don't have enough money to afford college. Their mom is poor and working 3 jobs, and they're basically going to tournaments to try to pull their weight at 16. Like, a lot of people have stories. Understanding the weight of their stories and understanding their pride when they step into the match, that's where it gets really interesting. Because can you effectively deprive a person fighting that hard? Can you deprive them of victory? You have to make decisions like that. It's tough. It is not easy. But that's also why there is the ethical framework in our 3 dimensions of strategy. There must be an ethical framework. Because if we shut ourselves off to that and shy away from that weight and that responsibility as we go into competition, just say it's just a game. Yes, it's just a game for you and maybe for me and for your friends. It may not be just a game for somebody who's desperately trying to make something of their life because life dealt them a shitty hand and this is the only way they know how to crawl out from under it. We need to provide these people with empathy. That doesn't mean take it easy on them, but that means when we fight them, we show them the utmost respect. We have fun, sure, and we try to have fun, but there's many ways you can slice that situation. But heavy stories and heavy empathy like that is important when you go into fighting. For example, I heard an anecdote from one of my students about going on to a stream of a certain top player that went unwanted the other day, and they were incredibly belligerent and extremely rude on stream to the other player. Now, the other player couldn't hear it, but avoiding that is why we have to take consideration of an ethical dimension. But you also have to be prepared to deliver Like, if you need to win, if winning is that important to you, you need to be prepared to deliver that pain onto somebody, but not do it in a way that's cruel. We don't want to be cruel. I always thought to respect my opponent, but never thought about how deep could be. People are really complicated. And honestly, like, I'm biased because I have a very different perspective on this because I teach. Back in my heyday, I was teaching like 10, 15 people on personal one-on-one levels, including my co-host or my former co-host. I have seen the full spectrum from, oh, I'm just playing because it's really cool, or I'm just playing because I used to do fencing and it was something that I actually really enjoyed and this gives me a similar feeling, to I'm doing this because nothing in my life is going right and I want to feel like I can actually get good at something because I feel worthless. And every time I lose, I feel like that worthless part of me gets validated. I've seen it all. If you guys were wondering why this was so taxing on my mental health, that's why. But I'm ready for it now. Don't worry. I know what I'm getting into now, and I'm excited for it. That actually hit me way too hard in my feelings. Respect after battle will give you happiness because, hey, we can all learn a lesson from battle, even if we lose at times. Sure. But sometimes losing is not an option. It's tricky, guys. Lee! My fridge is empty. Get in on it, bro. I'm waiting. No, I'm kidding. For those of you that don't know, if you're watching this on YouTube, me and Lee are friends. Just don't take that too seriously, please. Okay, because I love DBZ and this game is very generous to people who want to play fighting games. That last part spooks me because I see it in my friend group whenever I watch their duels. Yeah. That's why I'm also going to focus on the ethical perspective, because when you guys, this will be very apparent when I start teaching the kata, but you guys are going to start seeing exactly what I mean when I say this requires a certain degree of ruthlessness and brutality. We must temper that by having a heart and compassion for other people, because without it, you become the kind of player that is very unpleasant to watch, even when you win. And there are some players that I think are perhaps too brutal. You know, I've also seen it, like, for example, let's say you're teaching a new guy or good night to all. I'm going to probably do some training for a bit and get some rest. Sleep well. I'll do my best for them emotionally and psychologically. I think that's awesome, Stardust. And I think you're doing a really good job. But that's also one of the reasons why it's twofold. I'm not just going to teach you how to treat others, but I'm also hoping to treat you with, or give you the skills to develop inner resilience. So that way you become resilient, where you can handle losses, where you can handle setbacks, where you can handle challenges and rise above them, Goku style. I would very much like to be able to encourage you guys to do that, and I'm excited to try. I can say that one of my goals, if not my main goal, is essentially to tame the malice and be the guidance to one's inner tranquility. I think you and I have the exact same goal, Stardust. That's exactly what I'm trying to do in this particular chapter of DBFC. I'm no longer trying to get you guys to high level. Whether you guys get to high level or not depends on you. I think these skills are required and will give you an edge when you get to that level. However, whether or not you get to that level is entirely of your own volition. My only goal is to tame the malice and be the guidance to one's inner tranquility. That is a tongue twister. So yeah, I agree. But great question, Jam, and I want you to ask me that again, especially in the VCs since you're in the Discord, so that way you and I can really start kind of getting into it. So great question. I'll take one more question. Does anybody have any other questions about what we just talked about or what the future is going to look like? timing's off. None here. Excellent. Awesome. Get some rest, Wise. Oh, I got one. Sure. What's up? And while I'm at it, let me see if I can... I'm going to have to boot up. Thanks. Appreciate the lesson. Wonderful. I look forward to seeing you guys. Check your whispers. I will be sending you guys invites if you're not already in the Discord. That will come shortly. So this is a matter of the player's persona and how it can manifest in their play. Okay. Oops. Why is that so hard? So annoying at times. Okay, so as of recent, I've come across a few associates of mine who challenges me, right? But in a more provocative or a bit of an uncanny manner. Okay. There we go. Is there any hypothetical guesses or details I could possibly be aware of when I face them? Challenges you in what way? Like in the game, or like I need to know a little bit more about the parameters of your conflict in order to recommend advice. In the game, how do they challenge you? Like, is it like their play style is just very different from yours, or they're overly belligerent? Like, how would you assess them? It's the second one and how it shows and then decisions in play. So the thing about attacking is that usually the person who attacks first and most often seems to have the advantage. The best way is to give them an appropriate amount of distance. So let's take a look at Bluku, for example. Look at all of the tools that he has, essentially, to kind of get in, right? Like, he has so many tools to just make your life a nightmare, right? Like, he has so many ways of getting in to make your life a nightmare. Everything looks forward. Or everything moves forward. That being said, however... If I do 236H, all she has to do is jump. Notice how I actually have to cross a particular distance. Might be confusing with my question, but it's something like the persona or of a player that you're dealing with. When it manifests in the game as aggression or belligerence, the same thing applies. So right now, even though I'm talking about the game, this distance, if I whiff anything, it's a mistake. And if they are hyper aggressive, what that shows me is that they are not afraid of making a mistake, or they're not aware that they're making a mistake. What you want to do is you do not want to meet their aggression, because if you do, it becomes a contest of the strength of your wills. You don't strike me as a very aggressive or damaging person, or somebody that is as comfortable being as belligerent as he is. He will beat you with experience, or they will beat you with experience. What you want to do is you want to make sure you always maintain a safe distance, allow them to speak, and allow them to whiff, and then counterattack. You need to take a counter attack approach. Looking at them, looking at their timing. If they're aggressive, that means they're always attacking. They're never not attacking. They're always kind of moving forward. They're always, and it can get overwhelming. However, if you give yourself enough distance, time to react to things, trust your timing and your reactions and your defensive play, you will eventually start creating and finding openings. When you find those openings and you exploit them, when you consistently start punishing him, two things are going to happen. He's either going to double down on his aggression. If he does, it's not going to work. You need to be able to continue to kill him from this position. The other thing that might happen is that he will crumble. When you neutralize that aggression, that's when you start seeing players do stuff like this. See? So you'll start seeing him hesitate. Even when he attacks, notice how there's a little bit of lag before that 2M. Instead of it just straight up, I'm going to run up and punch you. Now it's, okay. When you start seeing little gaps like that, that is usually a sign that they are now hesitant, that they are uncertain. That little lapse in timing, if you are skilled enough, you can use against them. That is how I would neutralize a very aggressive player. I don't know if that exactly answers your question. And of course, I use very vague and esoteric language. We will be covering the specifics of what to do in strategy later down the line. But I wanted you to keep the basic idea in your mind and kind of think about it a little bit, let it germinate, and then eventually it's going to start manifesting in your decisions as you train with us. Max Destruction, any advice on getting over feeling stuck at my current skill level? Subscribing to us and getting in the Discord. Now, I know it seems like I'm money hungry, but in all honesty, I do actually recommend coming into the Discord if you feel stuck, because at that point I can give you an eval, but more importantly, you have access to other people that you can train with and different exercises that you can do to eventually start improving. If you feel stuck, oh, you're in there. Excellent. Ping me. Just go to general and at Kenshin. But no problem. I got you. It's subscriber only, but you know what? I like you, so don't worry about it. I got you. If you want to donate, you can later. If you want to donate or if you want to subscribe and whatnot, consider doing so. But for now, don't worry about it. I got you. I will get you guys the thing from the Discord in a little bit. I have to keep it sub only because it's kind of a, I believe we call it a dumbass filter. So no worries. But I'll apply this when I get and watch and analyze duels. Sure, if you can record them, we can watch them together. But yeah, no. So in all honesty, when it comes to getting over feeling stuck, that means that you're basically in the rut of doing the same thing over and over again, and you haven't necessarily broken through and figured out exactly what strategies you need to be able to adjust in order for the game to feel fresh. It can also be a sign of burnout. There's a lot of things that it can be, honestly. Like, there is so much that it can be. I'm not going to presume to know what it is until I fight you. But basically speaking, depending on what it is, there are different ways of going about it, and almost all of them can be overcome with a sense of genuine community by training and fighting people that actually want to get better alongside you. And more importantly, having somebody that can help sort of spot your weaknesses and help you improve from there. So that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I know this was kind of more of like a syllabus-esque thing rather than a masterclass, so I know it probably wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but thank you guys and everyone who joined me and kept my chat active. Thank you guys for your wonderful questions, and thank you guys for joining me and being patient with me for this long. I'm so excited to continue going forward with this, and I hope you guys are excited too. I have some really fun stuff planned for you guys, and if you guys want an early snippet of that, remember you can always access the VCs whenever we have little study groups and stuff like that. So I look forward to seeing you guys, and don't forget to fill my fridge.